Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 8 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoy this what if, and want to see part 9 of it, comment down below, and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Hive HQ. The blonde teen was moving from scroll to scroll, placing those he was finished with into his duffel bag all day. At the moment he was sitting in the middle of the room looking at several scrolls all at once. Alright, it's high time I deal with the Nitwit Brigade. Obviously even if I do win, and they back off, they'll keep trying to capture me at some point in the foreseeable future, but I can't kill them. That just isn't my style. Besides, I'd be no better than Sasuke if I actually killed them. Naruto thought to himself while frowning, then heard someone knock on his door. Who is it? He asked from his spot without turning away from the scrolls. Jinx. The girl's voice came simply, though she sounded like she had a migraine, and Naruto turned an eye to the door and let out a soft sigh. Come on in, Jinx. He said, and the door opened, the girl entering and looking around the teen's finely furnished and decorated room for the first time. The room was of average size, with a simple gray carpet over the floor. The walls were painted black, due only because Naruto hated the idea of white walls, because they made him think of hospitals. Red just didn't look right, and any other color he had access to was stupid. He had a row of shelves placed on one wall with numerous trinkets and photos covering them, an average bed off to the side with a couple plain sheets, a door to her left led to a private bathroom, and he had a closet to her right where he stored his clothes. While near his bed was a dresser where he put his ninja gear, and a device Gizmo made was the last thing in the room, which was a container for the X suit when it wasn't in use. At the moment, however, the room was covered by dozens of scrolls lying everywhere around it, Naruto smack dab in the middle. What's up? Naruto asked from his spot while still looking over the scrolls, and the girl looked around, noting the dozens of scrolls lying around, and that he was reading one of them while sitting cross-legged on the floor. Do I want to know what you're doing with this place? She questioned, and Naruto shook his head no with an amused smirk on his lips. Alright then, I won't bother asking, but how was your trip last night, temp? Jinx questioned, and Naruto blinked before a smirk came to his lips. Interesting, was all he said, before returning to his scrolls, and Jinx huffed, before looking at the scrolls once more. What are you doing in here anyways? Jinx asked while flipping onto the teen's bed and looking over his shoulder. I thought you weren't going to ask, but if you really must know, I'm checking some of my mom's old family scrolls. He said simply while rolling one up before tossing it into his duffel bag. What for? Jinx then questioned, one hand holding her head up while the rest of her body was straight out on his bed. Checking on some of the tricks I use, a few of them I only have a basic knowledge of. Most jutsu are pretty complex, so I'm making sure I haven't missed something important about any of them. Naruto said simply while looking at one about the chakra claws, noting that it had a big brother in terms of power, that let you push wind into the claws, to allow them to stretch out for a wider range of attack. Might have to try that one. Naruto mused to himself, then rolled that scroll up and put it into his nightstand to read up on the technique later. Why haven't you done that before, temp? She questioned while leaning forward, her chin resting on his shoulder. Because I didn't feel like it. Besides that, at the time I didn't have to worry about Sasuke team. Naruto grumbled angrily, while Jinx giggled at the nickname for her friend's former best friend. Don't worry, Tempest, he ever comes around here, you got all of us to help you deal with him. Jinx said with a smile and a fist in the air, Naruto chuckling with a shake of his head at her own antics. Hearing the confidence in her voice made Naruto briefly consider telling Jinx about his upcoming battle with the Konoha Flinkies and asking for her help, but shook the idea off. This is my problem, I can't let her, or the others get involved with things from my past, or let them get hurt because of them. The blonde thought to himself before looking to his side with a frown. Yeah, I know. Naruto said, then took a thoughtful expression while looking at his X suit. Speaking of which. But that Naruto got up, Jinx falling face first from his bed, and glaring at the teen's back before quickly closing her legs, and flipping forward to her feet, thankful the blonde hadn't been able to see her with her skirt hanging down again. I need to get Gizmo to cheat this thing. That fight with Blackfire really did a number on the helmet. Naruto said, then muttered the end while walking out of the room, while seemingly ignoring the fact Jinx wasn't on the bed anymore. Jinx let out a quick breath once the blonde was gone, only to yelp when he stuck his head back inside. Also, black panties today. What's the occasion? Naruto asked with a grin before ducking out of the room, as Jinx blushed bright red before turning around and saw a mirror near the X suit. I hate it when he does that, she muttered while crossing her arms. I really need to stop wearing skirts around that boy. She then muttered to herself before getting up and brushing her skirt down, before walking out of the room and off to find something to do, while most of the boys were out. Meanwhile, Naruto walked down the halls of their HQ, and then into Gizmo's little workshop, which was a room packed with numerous computers, workstations, and machines for creating and managing his equipment. Looking around for a moment, Naruto walked in with the X suit, and noticed that the bald midget was working on a pair of gauntlets, something new for me Giz. Naruto questioned and Gizmo very nearly jumped out of his skin before turning to look at the blonde with a snarl. "Don't sneak up on me like that, fuckface." The tiny terror shouted, and Naruto chuckled lightly. "I'm a ninja, remember?" Naruto quipped in response, and Gizmo just let out a sigh before holding out one of the gauntlets. "These are new models for your suit. I've been playing some more Cyborg Shinobi Chronicles recently, and saw a new upgrade that would be up your alley." Gizmo said, and Naruto put the X suit down onto a nearby table before looking at these. "They don't look all that new." Naruto muttered with a frown and saw Gizmo glare at him. "These are designed more for combat than armor. They also have a few other special features. Besides that, I haven't finished them yet," Gizmo said angrily, and Naruto held up his wrists in a placating manner. "Calm down, Giz, you know I don't mean anything by it," Naruto said, and Gizmo muttered under his breath, before turning back to work on the new gauntlets. "Hey, where are Mammoth and the others?" Naruto then questioned, and Gizmo rolled his eyes. "Mammoth, Private Hive, Kid, and Seymour all went out to a baseball game," Gizmo stated, and Naruto blinked rapidly. "How can they do that? We're all wanted after all." Naruto questioned and then reminded, and Gizmo gave the blonde a grin. "Some of us actually have secret identities for a reason, Temp. As for Mammoth and Kid, however, I managed to rig a hologram for Mammoth, so he looks like a big guy, and Kid looks like a goth," Gizmo explained while continuing his work, and Naruto nodded his head slowly, before looking at the X suit. "Alright, then could you do a check, and upgrade on the whole suit, while you're at it? It's kind of hard to see in the thermal mode seeing as everything's different shades of red, and same with night vision only green, they both just don't look right," Naruto said simply, and Gizmo frowned, before walking over to the suit and looking at the helmet. "I knew I should have used that new equipment, but no, I had to save money," Gizmo muttered to himself, while Naruto leaned back into one of his many workstations. "I'm heading out, Giz, see you later," Naruto said, and Gizmo gave him a slight wave while he pulled the skull off the front of the helmet and looked at it with a frown, before his eyes started to light up, and a grin came to his face. With Naruto, however, the blonde was wondering why Gizmo was always making him this stuff, before a thought came to mind. "He makes things for Jinx and Mammoth too, but they don't use them as much as I do, and Jinx's stuff is all to make sure her room and electronics don't blow up. Maybe he likes making these things, and just doesn't have a lot of people to use them like I do." Naruto figured and nodded to himself. After all, in a world with so many diverse superpowers, it wasn't likely someone with brains like Gizmo would find his gadgets in use by anyone other than himself very often. Ignoring that actually depressing thought, Naruto frowned when he remembered he still had to deal with the Konoha and walked into his room. Seeing his red X is on the sidelines for the night, looks like Tempest is making another show. Naruto mused with a smirk as he walked over to his closet and pulled out his old costume. First he got out of his civvies, then he pulled on the tight black Anbu shirt with the mask up. He then pulled on his black shinobi pants with his kunai case placed on his right thigh, then his old studded belt around his waist with his 2 equipment pouches at his lower back. Stretching some, the blonde then pulled his red t-shirt with the black spiral on the right shoulder over that. His black fingerless gloves were next. He then pulled on his Robin-like steel-plated combat boots, and then his black headband with the red spiral at his forehead. Last, Naruto pulled on his black shin guards and gauntlets, and finally he pulled his black body armor on, zipping it up the front, then snapping the 2 sets of buckles together to hold it on tightly. Naruto then reached into his closet once more, and pulled out his old ninjutsu, similar in design to his current one, only with his old sheath, having a Y-shaped harness over his chest to stay on tightly. Checking the blade, the blonde then sheathed it with a click and nodded his head while pulling the straps together at his chest with a nod. "Going somewhere, Tempest?" Jinx's voice came, and Naruto turned his head to see the girl leaning against the doorframe with a frown. Why are you in here again?" Naruto questioned, and Jinx frowned once more. "I wanted to see if you wanted to do something. It's boring around here with all the guys out tonight," she stated before walking over to the blonde, who inwardly cursed his luck as she then poked him in the chest. "Now, care to explain what the hell you're doing dressed up in full ninja gear?" she questioned with an edge to her tone, pink eyes narrowed on the blonde in dangerously. "Just taking a stroll," Naruto offered with a shrug, and saw Jinx frown while fixing him with a disbelieving look. "You're going to fight someone dangerous, aren't you?" she stated while crossing her arms, and Naruto hung his head with a groan. "How can you tell?" Naruto questioned, and Jinx smirked. 1. You're dressed in full ninja gear. 2. You were researching your techniques all morning long, even skipping lunch and dinner. 3. As far back as I've known you, you never stay in your room all day. 4. You just told me," Jinx explained with a cat-like smirk over her lips, and Naruto could swear the girl only needed cat ears, and could pass off as one. "So, why weren't you going to tell the rest of us about this?" Jinx questioned with a frown, and Naruto let out a sigh of breath. "It's my problem. I don't want the rest of you getting hurt in one of my fights," Naruto said simply, and Jinx gave him a look before sighing. "Just please, be careful, Tempest." She said, and before Naruto could come up with a witty retort, the girl had grabbed him, pulled his mask down, and given him another kiss directly on the lips. The boy was still as Jinx then released him, and smiled at the stunned blonde. "For luck," she said simply, before walking off with a sway to her hips, while Naruto merely looked after her in shock, before shaking his head and pulling his mask back up over his lower face. Why are girls all so confusing? I mean, I like Raven, and yet here Jinx is kissing me at every chance she can. What is with my luck with women lately? I mean, I like Jinx, but do I really like her like that? Naruto started to think, before shaking his head furiously, and frowning to himself. Alright Naruto, let's get back to the problem with Konoha's flunkies, and then worry about your love life. Wait a second, what am I thinking? Raven and I are just friends. Same with Jinx and me, there's nothing romantic going on between us. Well, Jinx did kiss me, twice now, and she is hard. What the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I fucking focus? Naruto inwardly demanded, while wondering why his thoughts were such a jumble, while rubbing his temples. Taking his mind away from those confusing thoughts and looking at his reflection in his mirror, the blonde couldn't help a frown that crossed over his features. Something's missing, he muttered, then looked at a scroll he'd had with him since before he found out about Konoha's betrayal. Looks like I'm going to be reviving Konoha's worst nightmare, Naruto whispered while walking over to the scroll. Picking it up, he shivered, seeing it was an ominous black color with a red cloud printed onto the front. Titan's Tower. Raven was frowning to herself as she looked in a book on demons. The reason she was even bothering to look was because of the name Naruto had used. Kyuubi no Kitsune, Lord of the 5th layer of Hell, representing the sin of wrath, and leader of the 9-tailed beasts, known as Biju in the mortal world. Not much is known of the beast other than it is a large fox with 9 tails, said to be able to cause tsunamis, hurricanes, and earthquakes with a few flicks of its tails. Raven read to herself with a frown while looking at a picture of a massive rust-red fox with black around its eyes that curled into its long ears, and almost hand-shaped frontal paws. Closing the book with a frown, Raven wondered why anyone would want to use the name Kyuubi no Kitsune. Lying back with a sigh, Raven looked over what she knew about the odd boy known to her as Naruto. He was sarcastic at times, fun when you really got to know him, knowledgeable in many things, didn't seem very serious, and most surprising, he didn't mind her company and she didn't mind his. Why am I so worked up over this guy? He's just another civilian anyways, she thought to herself, then frowned, remembering the blonde's talk with those 2 girls from before. Even as a civilian, I can't believe that one girl could willingly cheat on him. I mean, yeah, he can be annoying when he wants to be, but he's really nice otherwise, she thought, then blushed as she shook her head and groaned to herself. As if falling for that damn dragon Malchier wasn't bad enough, now I can't get a guy off my mind. But he does grow on you, yeah, like a fungus, Raven thought, and inwardly she could hear Happy laughing at the joke she had made. Groaning, as now she couldn't think with her happy self, all giddy, Raven looked at a clock in her room and frowned. She then remembered that Naruto had set up a meeting to fight with those 2 girls. Possibly they were ninja as well, and they could also have help. I could probably go and check out what he's doing, maybe see how much of a ninja this boy actually is. Besides, if he gets into some kind of trouble, he'll need some help, right? Raven wondered to herself, but shuddered once as an ominous feeling overtook her body entirely. Somehow, I doubt I'll be needed to help him, but I'm still going, she stated, then got up and walked over to her window, then flew out of it to go to the place Naruto would be meeting with his pursuers. The desert was fairly cool with a nice breeze. The breeze blew by as 5 figures walked out into the desert, soon slowing down as they approached their target. Raven appeared at that moment, and quickly ducked down into a ridge, just high enough to where she could watch the ensuing fight. First, however, she quickly took note of the 5 ninja who were already present. At least she guessed they were ninja from the odd clothing that they were wearing. First at the front was a man with gravity-defying gray hair, a headband with a metal plate covering his left eye, and a face mask like Tempest's below that. Over his upper body he had a dark blue shirt with red swirls on the biceps, a pair of fingerless gloves with metal plates at the back, and a green flak jacket of some kind. The rest was a pair of dark blue sandals, with wrappings around his shins, and a pair of black pants with a kunai case at his right thigh. Next to him was a girl with short bubblegum pink hair that could easily pass off as Jinx's sister. She had bright green eyes, however, with a red headband holding her hair back with a metal plate on it, a red zip up top, gray elbow pads, black leather gloves, tight black shorts, a strange skirt over the shorts that was a light pink color with straps around it, and had slits at the sides, and a pair of shin-high sandals, with a kunai case placed on her own right thigh, and a tanto placed at her lower back next to a pouch. Then was another boy. This one was fairly good looking, with long dark hair, but his creepy white eyes put her on edge. He wore a headband like the others with a white robe-like top and pants, a black cloth wrapped around his waist, and black sandals like the rest of them. He seemed to wear traditional garb, if Jinx could place the type of outfit that the strange young man was wearing. Then came a platinum blonde whose hair covered one eye that looked like a duplicate of that Terra girl who used to be on the Titans team. She wore a purple button-up tank top that left her midriff bare, a purple skirt that had only one button done in the front with a black skirt under it, with mesh covering her elbows, knees, and under her skirt. A pair of black sandals like the rest of them, and a kunai case on her right thigh, while it seemed she didn't have the headband that the rest of them wore. Last was a girl with a blue shoe to her long hair, and light lavender eyes. She wore a baggy purple and white jacket that barely hid a well-endowed chest, a mesh shirt visible, where it was left slightly open, a headband around her neck instead of on her head. Her pants were bluish color, and her sandals were different than the rest of the groups, and had a kunai case on her right thigh like them. Meanwhile, behind her, ridge and cloaked in shadows, Raven saw the ninja and frowned, noting that one was dressed in similar garb to that Sasuke guy. Does that mean they were together? So then this is more serious than I thought it was. That Sasuke character was ruthless, and Naruto is taking on a group of them, while he's all alone. Raven thought with a shudder, while the ninja were looking around, probably for Naruto himself. Where is that baka? The pink-haired one, Sakura, if Raven remembered correctly, questioned, and the violet-eyed sorceress twitched. Somehow, I know she just insulted him, and I don't like that. She thought to herself with narrowed eyes, while the gray-haired man was looking at an erotica book of all things, pervert. Raven thought with a frown, while narrowing her eyes towards the man. Calm down, Sakura-chan, he'll be along, eventually. Kakashi started, then looked up and stopped, his single eye going white as it took in a figure whose back was to the full moon out. Kakashi Taicho, what's? The blonde, Ino, started only to look up and gasp, the rest of the ninja and Raven looking to what had them so freaked out. Raven recognized them as well as the hive students she had seen, but he was now wearing 10 rings with kanji on them, one placed on each finger with a long tattered black cloak with a hood, and red on the inside of it, the cloak having a single red cloud at the front of his chest, while an orange spiral mask covered his face from view, leaving a single eye hole to stare out at them ominously on the right. He looks like Madara. Kakashi whispered as Naruto sat cross-legged with his arms crossed, the rings of the Akatsuki still plainly visible. How did he recover the Akatsuki's rings? Better yet, why did he recover their rings? Kakashi couldn't help but wonder while looking up towards the ominous figure sitting above them. I see you didn't bring Sasuke team with you. Naruto stated simply, and Raven blinked, then groaned to herself. Alright, so they're Sasuke's allies. This could get more messy than I thought. She thought to herself while Kakashi, as she heard it, shrugged his shoulders for a moment. Sasuke is still healing from his last battle. He needs to learn a lesson, and we felt it would be better for him to be left out of this fight. Besides, we need you alive, and he'd have killed you on the spot. Kakashi said simply, and Raven twitched once more, wondering why she was getting so mad. Naruto, however, merely rolled his eyes while placing his hands onto his knees, the colored gems of the 10 rings on his fingers glowing ominously in the moonlight. Kakashi, I'll tell all of you Konoha flunkies one last time. Naruto said darkly while rising to his feet, and Kakashi and the other nin quickly moved into defensive positions. Leave me the fuck alone, and I won't have to hurt you. Naruto said darkly, and Kakashi shivered before narrowing his eye. Sorry Naruto, we can't do that, and you know it. You're at least an S-class missing nin, and normally I wouldn't go anywhere near someone with that amount of skill, but Hokage-sama wants you returned to the village alive, and I'll do as Hokage-sama wants. Kakashi said simply, and Naruto frowned behind Madara's old mask, while looking down at them. Then you leave me no choice, but to revive Konoha's worst nightmare tonight. The blonde said before vanishing, Kakashi's eyes wide as the blonde now stood beside him in Eiji, Shadow Claw Taijutsu, style 2, the art of the shadow dance. But that said, Naruto lashed out, sending both Kakashi and Eiji flying to the sides, while the boys seemingly vanished once more. However, after looking around, Raven spotted Naruto running at amazing speeds for a civilian, as he then ducked under Kakashi and kicked upward, sending the man flying up into the sky above. He's fast, was all Raven could think as Naruto then jumped up into the air, grabbing Kakashi by his throat. As they came down, Naruto plunged his fist into the man's face, driving him deep into the ground as they landed. Sakura attacked at that moment with a swing of her fist, but the blonde teen easily evaded her, as her fist hit the ground, breaking it apart. She's stronger than Star. Raven thought with shock as Naruto then grabbed Sakura by her wrist. I'm through allowing you to hit me, Haruno. With that, Naruto spun on in the air, and Judo tossed a pincat from his shoulder and straight into the side of a nearby cliff, Raven grimacing at the sight as the cliff fell down. He doesn't know the meaning of holding back with her, does he? She thought to herself, while Naruto shimmered for a second, when an orb of energy seemed to hit him in the back. Got him? Naruto then said, while Ino fell over, and Raven was surprised to see someone shoot her soul self out of his or her own body, and into that of another person. Okay, so maybe he does know people weirder than I am. She allowed, then saw that Kakashi guy slowly get up with a groan, while rubbing his throat and face. Impressive, Ino-chan, but I don't think you got the right person. Kakashi said with a light chuckle, and Naruto's body poofed into a plume of smoke, becoming Kakashi's body instead, while Kakashi shimmered into Naruto's form. I think you got your Taicho instead. Naruto said darkly before crouching and lunging forward with a fist to Kakashi's gut, sending him and the girl presently possessing his body flying back into her real body. Neji decided to attack at that moment, throwing his palms out towards the boy in a Gyuken strike, but the ex-nin deftly dodged and rolled to the side. Shadow Claw Taijutsu, style for the art of the open palm. Naruto suddenly said, while taking a strange stance as Neji came at him, only for the blonde to spin around him and push him to the ground with an open palm. Neji quickly got back to his feet and into a Gyuken stance, before lunging at the blonde-haired nin, only to be shocked when Naruto moved his palms into an intricate pattern, diverting every one of his strikes before then slamming his palm into Neji's chest and sending him flying back into Sakura as the girl was getting back up. Kakashi and Ino then got up, but Naruto lashed out quickly, tossing several kunai towards him. The two evaded them but went wide-eyed seeing the explosive notes wrapped around the handles. Boom. Naruto said darkly and the tags exploded, sending both flying away as he turned his back to the flames and stalked towards Neji and Sakura. Art is a bang. Naruto said with a dark chuckle as he formed a Rasengan into his left hand. Wouldn't you two say so? With that the blonde jumped into the air and slammed his Rasengan into the ground, sending a shockwave rippling through the ground and creating a massive spiral-shaped crater around them. Note to self, do not allow the others to piss Naruto off, unless they have some kind of deep-seated need to have their asses kicked. Raven thought to herself dryly with a nearly gaping jaw, as the blonde stood with his back to the flames of the explosion, where Kakashi and Ino had been, painting an ominous picture as his entire form was cloaked in shadow. Neji however groaned as he got back to his feet, and stared at the form of Naruto in the center of the new crater around them. Throughout this entire fight he's limited himself to Tai and Kenjutsu, the only ninjutsu he's used besides the Kawamari, and Henge is his Rasengan. He's not even using his shadow clones, and he's tearing us apart, although he hasn't given us time to let us try any of our own jutsu. This is still very troubling. At this rate we'll need to kill him just to survive. Neji thought while panting, and Sakura groaned, her head still ringing from being slammed into a hill, and then having Neji slammed into her also. Still think Naruto-kun is weak? I quipped dryly, and Sakura muttered a simple shut up under her breath, while looking at the blonde with a frown. If you give up now, I wouldn't have to go full force and critically harm you. Naruto then said simply while he looked to his left to see Hinata was staring at him from the ground. We can't. The girl said with a stutter, and Naruto shook his head, then turned it when he noticed Kakashi getting up finally pull his hit eye up. Then I'm sorry, but I cannot allow myself to lose to any of you tonight. Naruto said darkly, moving quickly, and chopped at the girl's neck, knocking her out, and catching her, before she had to place her down gently. Nighty-night Hinata, sweet dreams. He thought to himself while turning towards Kakashi. The man growled and quickly began to form hand seals for a jutsu, but Naruto's eyes narrowed. And if that means I have to beat you all two within an inch of your lives, then I sadly have no other option. Naruto said while reaching to his shoulder and pulled his sword free from the hole he'd made in his cloak for its hilt. But to fight you all like I would my true enemies. With that Naruto crouched and swung his sword, sending a burst of wind from its blade that knocked Kakashi onto his back. Sealess wind jutsu, Kakashi said mostly to himself, then cursed as a blade of wind came towards him from the blade of his former student. This is bad. Wind jutsu are perfect for attacking long range, by extending the reach of his sword, or even using them to knock us back. With Naruto using them seamlessly, we have to worry about what jutsu he's going to use next. Not to mention the fact Naruto has ungodly stamina and otherworldly stores of chakra. No wonder he killed Madara. Kakashi thought to himself, while watching the blonde-haired boy spin on his heels then lash out at Neji, sending him flying back, before spinning gracefully, and lashing out with another burst of wind to Sakura, knocking he off her feet. He controls the wind. Raven questioned while watching the blonde suddenly vanish once more, only to reappear at distance from the group of ninja. Didn't Red Axe control the wind? And that thing, Rasengan, wasn't it? Axe used that on Cyborg. Raven mused to herself with narrowed-eyed on the blonde-haired teen. Just who are you? She wondered to herself silently. Naruto, we can't lose tonight either. Kakashi said as his eye changed and Naruto instantly tensed. He hated that fucking Mingekyo. So I'm sorry, but... With that Kakashi tried to use his dimensional rift on the blonde's left arm, hoping to stop the boy from using any truly dangerous jutsu, only to miss when Naruto moved at the last second, taking his sword apart instead. The blonde landed in a crouch and breathed a silent relieved sigh, while looking at his sword's hilt, and tossed it to one side. So I have to deal with that fucking Mingekyo Sharingan of yours too then? Naruto mused with a frown, and Raven frowned. Sharingan was something Sasuke had, and since this gray-haired guy had it, wouldn't that mean they're somehow related or working together? Also, Red Axe had mentioned the Sharingan. That would mean that not only was Naruto an actual ninja from the look of it, but Red Axe as well. I didn't want to have to use it, Naruto, but we must return you to Konoha immediately. Kakashi stated, and Naruto frowned darkly beneath his mask, before crouching down further. Well then Kakashi Baka, looks like I have to deal with you like I would Sasuke or Madara. Naruto said darkly, and Kakashi inwardly grimaced, while quickly pulling a kunai from his thigh, and held it at the ready. However, Naruto quickly shimmered out of existence as he had many times before, appearing behind the man whose eyes whitened. Before the man could react, Naruto had already moved, grabbing him by the neck. The teen then tossed him over his shoulder, and formed a swirling sphere in his hand. Rasengan, he called out as he slammed the sphere into the old man's gut, sending him flying back, and into the side of a cliff, where the Rasengan shredded his flak jacket, and left him falling forward, only to poof out of existence. Kage Bunshin, that's my thing. Naruto said mostly to himself, then quickly turned, when he saw Kakashi finish with several seals. Shit, he thought until Kakashi quickly placed his hands to the ground. Kuchis. Tsuga no Jutsu. Kakashi called out as his nin dogs appeared and moved forward quickly, latching onto Naruto as the blonde grunted in pain. Damn, so this is how Zabuza felt all those years ago. It sucks, man. Naruto thought to himself while Kakashi gave a sigh of relief. Now then. Seeing as I finally got you, Naruto, you're still coming with us. Kakashi stated while looking at the blonde, only to hear a chuckle come from him, before a red glow escaped the singular eye hole of his orange spiral mask. Full, I still have an ace in the hole. Naruto said darkly while expelling his chakra from his body and concentrating. 1000 Blades Jutsu. He called out as thousands of blades of wind lashed out at the dogs holding onto him, all of the summons disappearing out of existence as he did so. Kakashi looked on in shock at this before groaning lightly, as Naruto's red-eyed stare seemed to abate, leaving the dark hull of his mask completely black once more. We don't seem to have to worry about him using Kyuubi, that would be overkill at this point. Kakashi thought, then looked at the others and saw that the least damaged of them all was an unconscious Hinata, Ino behind her, with Sakura having taken a harsher physical beating than the other girls. However, before Kakashi could think more on this matter, he noted Naruto sway before falling to one side and disappearing in a plume of smoke. Kakashi's eyes widened seeing this, and looking to the sword that he had cut in half, he saw it also poof out of existence. Kage Bunshin, but how? Kakashi questioned with disbelief obvious in his tone and heard clapping. Turning quickly, he saw Naruto, still dressed like Madara, clapping his hands, while leaning back into a cleft wall. Kage Bunshin is an amusing little jutsu. It takes a person's chakra, and splits it evenly between the original and his copies. The Kage Bunshin also has the unique trait of sending all of its experiences back to the original as well, making it perfect for scouting missions and for training. In essence, I could train for a year by only training a day in real time, by using a couple hundred of them. Naruto explained before pushing off of the side of the cliff with his arms crossing. However, this is a waste of a powerful jutsu. Making a physical clone with half of one's power should be much more useful than a one-shot that is dispelled with even the slightest damage. However, by allowing it half of my chakra, it obviously had more than enough power to weaken you all down for me. Naruto mused to himself, and Kakashi plainly stared at the blonde with wide eyes before quickly taking a stance. Now Kakashi. You're too quick to anger, but then again, that actually explains where Sasuke team gets it. Naruto mused and saw Kakashi twitch angrily while Ino, Sakura, and Neji all got up and stood behind the older nin. So you have 4 fighters able and willing. Not good odds. Naruto mused before forming 3 hand seals, much to Kakashi's shock. For you, Chidori. Naruto said darkly, then exclaimed while holding his lightning-coated fist at his side. But how? I never taught you the Chidori. Kakashi said with obvious shock and very thinly hidden anger in his voice, making Naruto chuckle. I have a wind and lightning affinity, Kakashi Baka. I am not only well versed in wind jutsu, but lightning as well. They're merely more destructive than my wind jutsu, so I don't tend to use them too often. As for how I know Chidori, however, Naruto explained, then started with obvious annoyance. I've had a Chidori ram through both sides of my chest, through my gut, through my heart, and very nearly my head. I fucking remember what it felt like. That was the first part of recreating it. Then add to the fact I've seen it more than a half dozen times, and actually have a photographic memory. It was pretty easy to learn in the end. Naruto said simply with a grin hidden behind his mask. So you're going to use that against me? Kakashi questioned, and Naruto scoffed. No. I wouldn't use your own attack against you. I want to show you how I improved it, however. Naruto said darkly as he held the Chidori up and began to weave the lightning chakra, forming an electrified Rasengan. Chidori no Rasengan. Swirling sphere of the 1000 birds. Naruto said, shocking Kakashi before the blonde then lunged forward, and then slammed the new attack into Kakashi's gut, sending the man screaming back. The attack also ripped the ground around Kakashi apart, bolts of lightning spreading out before the Rasengan dug into his body, as he hit the side of another cliff with an explosion. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura called out before rushing over to help the man, while Naruto looked at Ino and then Neji. Do you really think you stand half a chance? He questioned, and both looked to one another, and slowly went to pick up Hinata. If you think we'll be gone for good, don't count on it. We'll be back even stronger next time. Ino said quickly, before she and Neji both moved over to Sakura and Kakashi, all 3 shunshining out of the area, while Naruto merely watched, a grin crawling over his lips as he did. I'm counting on it. I can always use a good workout here and there after all. Naruto said before turning and shaking his head. Karasu-chan, you can both stop hiding now. He said with a slightly amused tone as Raven appeared out of the shadows with a frown on her face. How long did you know I was there? The violet-eyed empathy questioned and Naruto chuckled. Since the beginning. Did you like the show? Naruto said, then questioned, and Raven frowned once more. You could have killed them. Raven said flatly, while crossing her arms, and Naruto nodded his head in agreement. I could have, but then again, they could have killed me as well, if I hadn't known them all so well. Besides, I'd be no better than Sasuke team, if I did kill them. Naruto stated rather plainly, and watched as Raven grimaced, while conceding his point. I also now know you're at least a member of the hive, Tempest, right? Raven said, then questioned, and Naruto gave a curt bow, before reaching up and pushing down his cloak's hood, while removing his orange spiral mask. Yeah, I bet Stone told you, huh? Naruto questioned, and Raven nodded her head slowly, while crossing her arms. He said Tempest was some kind of a wind elemental ninja. That was all he said, other than he was probably going to break his legs for what happened between him and Jinx. Raven said, then mused, and Naruto blinked before snickering. Oh yeah, I broke one of her boyfriend's legs for being a dick to her, after she broke up with him, and gave me the okay at least. Naruto mused, and Raven looked at the blonde, before shuddering to herself. That's a little on the psychotic side, she said, and Naruto frowned. Nobody fucks with my friends, so long as I gotta say about it, he said simply, and Raven couldn't help but admire that she was the same way when it came to her own friends after all. So, what exactly have our meetings been about then? Raven then asked with narrowed eyes, and Naruto blinked before frowning. Honestly, he knew Raven would be on edge. Who wouldn't be if they found out a new friend was also a part-time criminal? I just like hanging out with you, and everything I told you was the truth, so I wasn't trying to get info on your friends or anything like that, Naruto stated simply while crossing his own arms, and Raven frowned before sighing. So do you honestly expect me to lie to my friends about who you really are then? Raven questioned, and Naruto rubbed his chin. Well, you have no proof of anything beyond me being Tempest, and Tempest has never done anything beyond blow up the old Hive Academy, and beat up the accomplices to Sasuke team, and even then it's only your word, Naruto offered, and saw an annoyed look on Raven's face. I hate technicalities, she muttered, and Naruto chuckled lightly. I love them, he said while walking off, Raven at his side. So what now? She questioned, and Naruto took a thoughtful expression. You free tomorrow? He asked, and Raven raised a brow, while giving him a strange look. Pending that nobody threatens to destroy the city, of course. Naruto then amended, and Raven bit her lip before nodding. Then how about I take you to catch a flick in town? Naruto offered with a smirk, and Raven looked at him strangely once more before frowning. Why is it we seem to go on excursions that seem a little too much like dates when we're just acquaintances? Raven questioned of the blonde-haired boy, who looked mock thoughtful for a few moments. Maybe we're not just acquaintances, he offered with a smirk, and Raven twitched, before crossing her arms and looking at him with one eye. I barely know you, she stated, and Naruto scoffed. You know me better than my old friends knew me, he countered, and Raven tried to think of a comeback, before stewing about it. You're a criminal, it would be. Raven tried, and Naruto scoffed. Oh brother, I'm a thief and a wise ass, not really a criminal, Card-chan. I'm only dangerous to people who fuck with my friends, and you kids are so. Naruto would have said a couple things, but thought better of it until Raven spoke up. You could tear most of us apart with only a minor effort, she offered with a slight frown, and Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. I wouldn't have put it so brutally, but that's one of the things I like about you, Card-chan, Naruto said with a smile, and Raven blushed while looking away from the blonde-haired young man. So what movies are out? Raven questioned, and Naruto frowned. I heard something called Wicked Scary 2 came out recently, he offered, and Raven shivered. Somehow she knew she wouldn't like that movie. How about something that doesn't involve a green creature with evil flailing tentacles and multiple mouths? Raven asked, and Naruto shrugged with a smirk on his face. We'll see when we get there then. If nothing good is out, then we can always head to your cafe, and just enjoy each other's company, or even go to that bookstore and grab a good book. Naruto mused, and Raven blinked, before nodding her head slowly to the blonde. Cool. Then I'll be seeing you later, Card-chan. With that, Naruto vanished in a plume of smoke, and Raven looked all around for him. And to think, he's more like me than I thought, she mused with a slight frown before pulling the shadows from the ground to wrap around her as she went home as well. It was going to be interesting for her living in Jump City from now on, that was for sure. Sakura sighed as she finished healing the extremely nasty wound on Kakashi, the older man groaning in pain even when she was done. On his gut and some of his chest was now a large ugly spiral-shaped scar. Even with her healing, she'd been unable to repair the damage left by that attack of Naruto's. To think, I thought Naruto could never learn Chidori, Kakashi murmured before grunting in pain, then passing out as Sakura got up and walked out of the room to see the others nursing their own wounds, Hinata helping heal those she could, while Ino was lying back with a headache. He totally beat the shit out of us, Ino said while laying down, then grimaced while holding her head. He was playing with us as well. Neji reminded while Hinata finished with his wounds and moved over to Hilino. And you said we shouldn't take Sasuke-kun. Sakura reminded and then got glares from the rest of those in the room. You're an idiot, I swear. He took all 4 of us out with only a shadow clone. What do you think Sasuke could have done to him that would have let us win? Ino questioned and Sakura gaped, before huffing and looking to the side while Is was mentioning the same thing, making the Pinket more annoyed. Maybe we should just concentrate on going home. If Naruto-kun wants to stay here, he should be allowed T2 after all he's done for Konoha. Hinata said timidly, and Neji sighed, while shaking his head. Even if we wanted to, we can't. We don't have any clue how to use the technique Naruto used to get us here in the first place. Thus no way for us to return home till we manage to capture him. Neji said simply, and Hinata nodded while still healing Ino's wounds. Not like it makes a difference. Even if we somehow do catch him, it's not like he'll just happily make us a way home, so we can drag him away. Ino reminded and Neji nodded his head with a frown, while Sakura rubbed her own injuries. What are all of you so worried about? That Baka was the worst in the academy. He isn't strong enough to. Sakura started only for Ino to toss a kunai that cut her on the cheekbone, surprising and scaring the girl. In the academy I couldn't aim a kunai to save my life. If I had thrown that, then you'd be missing an eye. Ino said in a deadly tone, while Sakura reached up and healed the wound on her cheek slowly. If I can get better at that, then Naruto can get better than all of us. Ino then said sagely, while sitting up once her wounds had all been fully healed. And let's not forget Sakura, he did kill Uchiha Madara himself, though you like to forget that a lot, Miss Cheater. Ino said angrily, and Sakura winced, while turning away and walking off. What was that about? Hinata questioned and Ino debated whether or not to tell her of Sakura's adultery and decided against it. After all, she didn't need Hinata killing Sakura, while she had first dibs on killing the pink-haired bitch that she had once called her best friend. Naruto may have been annoying, but he had also been the single nicest guy in all of Konoha and one of her friends, and like Naruto, Ino didn't like it when anyone fucked with her friends, least of all her other supposed friends. Titan's Tower. Raven yawned as she walked into the Titan's Ops Center, more often referred to as the common room. The walls were all made from solid steel colored white with red near the floor of the room like the carpeting, with sliding doors that activated when someone neared them. It had an enormous TV at the end of the room, with windows covering the rest of that wall, and several miniature computers belled the windows, a C-shaped couch before the massive TV, while to the back right of the room was an area akin to a kitchen and dining room with a table. And everything while to the back left was a normal couch with a table before it and a clock above it. Looking around, she then noticed that Beast Boy and Cyborg were playing a video game at the large couch, while Robin was sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee half finished. No argument today? She questioned and Robin frowned towards the girl. Raven, breakfast was several hours ago. You've been asleep all morning. Robin stated and Raven blinked then looked at the clock. She frowned seeing she had slept well past when she normally would. Hell, she had even somehow outslept Beast Boy. Sorry, I was up late last night. Raven said while walking to get some herbal tea, and didn't see Robin frown. Why were you late last night? Robin questioned and Raven very nearly stiffened, but managed not to as she calmly pulled the tea from the cupboard. I was meeting Naruto late for a chat. She said simply, leaving out the parts about him unleashing true hell onto a bunch of ninja for pissing him off. Dude, you and that Naruto guy sure hang out a lot. Beast Boy called out from his spot and then grinned. Raven's got a. He started only for Cyborg to place a hand onto the green teen's face and nudged towards that dark titan. Beast Boy paled seeing as she was looking at him with a one-eyed death glare, but black tendrils were hovering just under her cloak. Finish that sentence and I promise, you will pay dearly. Raven said darkly and Beast Boy nodded before turning back to his game shakily, Cyborg snickering as he did so. Ignoring them and the fact it looked like the game had ninja and cyborg armor, Raven went back to her tea, and was pleased when it was finally done. Unfortunately, Starfire chose that time to enter the room and hug the Dark Titan, annoying her until Star let go and went on to her next victim of her death hugs, Robin. Is it not a most glorious morning, friends? Starfire asked in her usual cheery tone, and Raven rolled her eyes. It's about average, she said, and Robin gave her a look that said not to spoil the alien girl's day. Even so, the sun is shining brightly, the birds are making their wonderful songs of chirping, and the sky is clear of the storm clouds. Perhaps we could have an outing on this most glorious day, my friends? Starfire questioned and Raven frowned. Pass. With that, the Dark Titan walked out of the room while Star blinked, then looked at Beast Boy and Cyborg, both looking to one another before ducking down. Sorry Star, we're busy, Beast Boy said, and Cyborg took over for the green teen. Yeah, I need to fix up the tea card today, Cyborg said, and Star turned to look at Robin with a pair of bright eyes, and the poor leader of the Titans couldn't help but give in. Alright Star, where would you like to? Before he could finish, a happy Starfire had grabbed him, and then flew off with the boy wonder to parts unknown. Dude, he really needs to learn how to say no to Star, Beast Boy said, and Cyborg nodded his head in agreement before both grinned and returned to their game, destroying evil Cyborg Ninja, with their own custom Cyborg Ninja. Meanwhile, Raven walked into her room and took another sip of her tea before blinking as a few memories from last night caught up with her and she twitched. "I have a date," she said with some amount of shock, while a couple books nearby went flying much to her embarrassment. "I just hope that doesn't happen tonight," she murmured before putting her tea down and set about fixing the damage she had done to her room, just because of the shock of actually having a date. Finishing with reshelving the books, Raven then looked around and picked her tea back up before sighing. "If I even want to go, I have to make sure I don't lose control," she said as she finished her tea and then sent the cup into the sink via a small portal. With that done, Raven sat cross-legged a foot off the ground and closed her eyes with a breath. Azarath, Metrian, Zinthos. Raven began before chanting her mind and attempting to center herself. Hive base. Naruto walked into the common room of his own home, dressed in his own civvies. He had just got out of the shower after working out some in the gym. Looking around, he saw Mammoth and Private were arm wrestling and shook his head. He then noticed that Jinx was looking at him strangely from her place on the couch and raised a brow to her. "Where are you going?" she asked with a raised brow, and the blonde teen blinked before smirking. "Out into the city," he said simply, figuring that telling them he'd be on a date would end up with them either following him or trying to figure out who his date was with, and he didn't need that. Jinx shrugged her shoulders after hearing his answer, however, and the blonde smirked as he turned and walked out of the building, wondering what new adventure today was going to bring. Titan's Tower. Raven had managed to center herself, at least she hoped she had, as she felt calm yet nervous at the same time. She had even taken a shower in order to relax, but she was still slightly nervous about the concept of a date. The closest thing to a date she'd ever been on had been when Melchior had tricked her into freeing him after all. Shaking her head, Raven looked at her reflection in the mirror of her private bathroom and frowned. "I'm too recognizable," she said to herself, as the entire team had a problem with their fans coming for autographs when they went to public places. This wasn't a problem at the cafe or at the bookstore, because everyone who frequented them had either gotten used to her or plain old didn't want to know her and went about their daily lives. Thus they tended to ignore her, while others in Jump City actively liked talking to the heroes of the city and get autographs and what not to show and brag about to their friends. Shaking her head, Raven stopped looking at herself with a sigh. A thought of being too pale to be normal going through her mind for the millionth time in her life, it seemed. Walking back into her room, she went to her closet and twitched upon seeing almost nothing but her usual outfit within. "I need a wider wardrobe," she mumbled while reaching into the closet and moving the clothes here and there. She found one outfit that wasn't as Aryan in descent. Instead, it was something that Starfire had convinced her to get, as she said it suited her, while looking less heroic when they had been at the mall for one of her usual shopping marathons. Looking at the outfit, Raven was silently thankful she had indeed gotten it, as otherwise she'd kind of feel foolish. Unwrapping the blue towel from around herself, Raven first got her underwear on, then pulled on the pair of black hip hugger jeans Starfire had got for her. Shaking her head, Raven then pulled on a simple black t-shirt. Her chain belt was then placed around her hips, and she pulled on a pair of blue sneakers Starfire got for her. Somehow, Raven wasn't sure this would work, then turned to look at her bathroom mirror, and frowned, remembering her hair and the jewel at her forehead were both highly recognizable. Walking back to her closet, the girl reached in and sifted through it, before finding a zip-up blue hooded jacket, and blinked several times. "Why haven't I worn this yet?" she wondered to herself before shrugging and pulling it on and walking to her bathroom and looking at herself. Pulling the hood up, Raven was pleased that she looked just different enough from herself to fool the usual fans, and her skin could easily pass off as her being a goth or something. Knowing Naruto was a ninja meant she wouldn't have to worry about him not recognizing her, as she supposed he had to be pretty observant, plus he seemed to know where she was, no matter what at times. Pulling the hood back down, Raven walked out of her room and went to tell the others she was going out, so their fearless leader wouldn't freak out. Walking into the common room, it was Beast Boy who saw her first and gaped from his spot on the couch. "What?" Raven asked, and Beast Boy pointed at her. Robin looked from where he and Cyborg were on the C-shaped couch, and Starfire moved her head from behind the fridge to see what was going on. "Raven, you look normal," he called out, and Raven frowned while giving him an annoyed glare. "And what do I normally look like?" she asked with a twitch, and was suddenly grabbed by Starfire into another hug. "I thought I told her to limit herself to only 1 hugs per person," Raven wondered to herself, while Starfire then placed her down and held her by her shoulders. "You look most wonderful, friend Raven. I am pleased to see you are finally wearing the attire I found for you at the mall of shopping," Star said happily, and Raven rolled her eyes. Did it really have to be such a big deal when she changed her clothes? "Whoa, what's the occasion for the change, Ray?" Cyborg asked, and Raven mentally thanked her titanium friend. "I'm heading out into town, figured you guys should know before I left," Raven said simply, and Robin frowned with his arms crossed. "Where are you going that requires you to be out of uniform, Ray?" he questioned, and Raven gave him a cross look. "Out with Naruto to a movie," she said simply, and Robin's eyes shot wide open in surprise, while Starfire squealed and hugged the girl tightly once more. Seriously, I thought we all agreed that she could only hug us once per day ever since that incident, where our bones started breaking. Raven thought and was finally released by the girl who was speaking rapidly, and she then had Beast Boy grinning as he realized what was going on in his head. Dude, Raven has a date. This I gotta see. Beast Boy said before turning into a mouse and scampering off to change into some civvies as well. Friend Raven, I am so happy you have finally decided to seek friendship outside of the tower. Starfire said before taking a thoughtful expression and grinning. Maybe we could even have the girl talk once you return about how your date went. Starfire questioned hopefully while Cyborg snickered from his spot. That's really not my thing, Starfire. Raven said with a blush starting to form, before pulling the hood of her jacket up. Well Raven, do you at least have your communicator with you? Robin questioned and Raven nodded her head. It said on vibration. She said simply and Robin nodded his head. Then have a good time Ray, I got some work to do in the lab. Robin said while getting up, and then walked past her, making Raven narrow her eyes and wonder what he was up to. Well Ray, think you should get going. It's getting late. Cyborg then said and Raven pulls a shadow around herself and vanishes. Cyborg then looks around and frowns when he notices a certain someone is missing. Where's Beast Boy? He asked and Starfire looked around before shrugging her shoulders. Come on Star, go get some civvies, knowing Beast Boy he'll be following Raven to heckle her with blackmail or something. Cyborg said with a frown and Starfire rushed off to get herself some of the civvies, so she could follow with Cyborg into the city. Jump City streets. Raven appeared in an alley of Jump City before walking out and down the streets, her hands in her coat pockets. She looked around and sighed when no one seemed to notice her. I might actually get used to this, she thought to herself while wondering what Naruto and she would see, praying he didn't want to see Wicked Scary 2. I was terrified of the first one. If he takes me to that I'll probably end up embarrassing myself, she thought to herself with a grimace as she reached theater and noticed nothing was playing yet. Looks like I'm a bit early for once, she mused, then realized Naruto's hideout could be anywhere in the city. It could take him a while to find her and… Yo, Car-chan, said Blonde said from behind, scaring the girl nearly out of her skin, as she didn't sense him. Turning, she gave the blonde an annoyed glare, and noted he had on a black and red striped bucket hat today, hair still covering his cheeks, with his flak jacket over his red shirt, and the rest of his usual attire. What? Was it something I said? Naruto questioned and Raven rolled her eyes. How do you do that? She questioned and Naruto chuckled. Ninja, remember? He said simply, then walked with her over to look at what was playing. So, what you want to see, Car-chan? Naruto questioned and Raven looked up at him with a raised brow. Why are you calling me that? She questioned and Naruto chuckled. Using your real name might draw attention to ourselves, Car-chan. That name or even Karasa work great on the streets, because no one knows you under that alias. Naruto explained and Raven was mildly impressed he had thought this through that far ahead of time. What if someone Japanese hears you say that? Raven countered and Naruto rolled his eyes. How many Asian people do you honestly expect to find in this city? He countered back, and Raven conceded his pint, before looking at the posters on theater and saw 2 or 3 movies she'd like to see. Underworld, she said simply, and Naruto smirked despite himself. Never heard of it, but it sounds interesting from what Jinx told me about the first and second ones. Naruto admitted while reaching into his jacket to pull out a wallet and checked how much money he had left, and Raven rolled her eyes. It's a prequel to the first one, so you're kind of in luck, she said, and Naruto scratched his head with a frown on his face. Never understood prequels personally. If you want to make something before the original, why not make it first? Naruto mumbled and Raven smirked, before rolling her eyes as they got to the box office. 2 for Underworld, Naruto said to the teen behind the booth, the goth kid who looked really bored. $12 please, he said dully, and Naruto tilted his head down to Raven. You know this guy? He asked, and Raven frowned then nodded her head. I talked to him once, while the others were at a dance. He's kind of weird even by my standards, she said simply, and Naruto slowly nodded his head, before pulling some money out to pay for his tickets. The goth kid then slid them their tickets, while sighing and looking either bored, or possibly trying to look apathetic. Okay, what was with that kid? Naruto wondered, and Raven shrugged her shoulders in response. Eyes like him are the reason I say I'm not gothic. I just like dark things, Raven said, and Naruto nodded his head in agreement with his date as they entered into the main theater. Behind them a shadow jumped from a tree, and onto the roof of theater, slowly crawling up the building, and to a vent, which the figure then crawled within. Want anything before the movie starts? Naruto questioned, and Raven shook her head only for her stomach to protest with a low growl, and the girl blushed slightly. Inwardly however she was also cursing about forgetting to have something before she left the tower. I'll get us some popcorn, Naruto then said with a shake of his head, and Raven followed after him while glaring at her stomach, and wondering why it had to betray her. Behind the two however a boy wearing sunglasses sat with a grin. On his head was an old fedora hat, with a tan-colored trench coat covering the rest of him with a brown backpack slung over his shoulders. Beast Boy, came a voice as the person was lifted up, and found himself being glared at by a bald African-American teen with a black muscle shirt, red Letterman jacket, jeans, and black running shoes holding him up into the air. Who are you? Beast Boy questioned with a nervous grin, and saw the teen's left eye glow red. Cyborg. Beast Boy started only for Cyborg to place a hand over his mouth. Dude. You look normal, Cyborg. Beast Boy said quietly after pulling Cyborg's hand from his mouth. Yeah, I fixed those hologram rings up to show me as Victor Stone, who I was before the medal. Now what the hell are you doing here dressed like one of the Ninja Turtles? Cyborg demanded in a harsh whisper to his green friend, and Beast Boy grinned nervously. I like the Ninja Turtles. He offered and Cyborg gave him a look. Alright, I couldn't think of anything else for a disguise. And I really do like the Ninja Turtles. Beast Boy said then added, and Cyborg rolled his eyes. Somehow, that didn't surprise him. Question is Cyborg, why are you here? Beast Boy demanded while pointing at Cyborg, and the titanium teen turned his head to make sure neither Raven nor Naruto had noticed them, and saw Naruto getting some popcorn before handing the bucket to Raven. I'm here to stop you from spying on them. Cyborg said in a whisper once more, and then they both saw Starfire was hiding behind something and following Raven and Naruto. Starfire was dressed in a purple crop top as usual, with a purple mini skirt as usual, only with silver bracelets around her wrists, her long red hair pulled into a ponytail with a yellow ribbon and braided. A simple silver chain pelt was around her own waist, with white socks coming from a pair of purple slip-on shoes. What's Star doing here? Beast Boy questioned, and Cyborg closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. Looks like she wants to spy on them as well. He muttered, and Beast Boy managed to get free from Cyborg and ducked next to Starfire, who looked at him surprised for only a moment till she saw the green fur. Friend Beast Boy, are you worried for friend Raven also? Starfire whispered and got a strange look from Beast Boy, while Cyborg picked them both up and placed them on their feet, so no one else would notice them. Eyes act natural, we don't need the whole town to know our civvies. Cyborg said lowly, and both Beast Boy and Star nodded at that. They very rarely used them, but when they did they enjoyed the privacy they got. What do you mean worried for Raven, Star? She can take care of herself. Beast Boy said, and Starfire wrung her hands together worriedly. It is just that ever since the Malchier betrayed her, friend Raven has been more withdrawn than normal. I do not wish to see her new friend hurt her as he did, and wish to ensure he is not some bad person out to do harm to her. Starfire explained, and Cyborg frowned, having considered that a possibility as well. Well, I got tickets for the movie they're seeing, let's tail them. Beast Boy said, holding up the tickets with a grin, and Cyborg frowned. Why did you get more than one of these, Beast Boy? Cyborg questioned, and Beast Boy rubbed the back of his neck nervously. I kinda figured you guys might join me. He replied, and Cyborg sighed before they all walked into theater to spy on Raven and her date. Meanwhile in their theater, Naruto and Raven had found a pair of seats near the middle row and sat down. The previews for upcoming films were still showing, so they had no worries about time at the least. You know, your friends were following us, right? Naruto said, then questioned with a smirk, and Raven nodded her head, while munching on the popcorn slowly. Beast Boy wanted to spy on my first date. Starfire's worried you're a villain. And Cyborg came to stop Beast Boy, but wants to help Star. Raven said simply, and Naruto chuckled, while leaning back in his seat. I would love to have had you around on my information retrieval missions, Card-chan. Naruto said with a smirk, and Raven shrugged her shoulders before looking at him strangely. Speaking of friends, you mentioned Jinx earlier. She said, and Naruto nodded his head to her. Are you two friends then? Raven asked with a raised brow, and Naruto rolled his eyes. More like roommates, same with Mammoth, Gizmo, and some of the other Hive kids. Naruto said, and Raven blinked, before she saw him snicker. In the Hive they used to call me the anti-Robin now that I think about it, Card-chan. Naruto then said, and Raven rolled her eyes, but judging by the way he looked last night she could see why they would call him that. You still hang out with the Hive. I thought you weren't a criminal. Raven stated, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders. They're my friends, I wouldn't abandon them, just because they like to actively commit felonies on a daily basis. Besides, I'm more of a security advisor. I even got them to lay off on Birdbrain's birthday. Naruto said, then admitted, and Raven was slightly surprised he did that for Robin of all people. I guess I should thank you for that. Raven said, and Naruto waved it off. No need, but let's make it a rule, Card-chan. When we go out, we don't talk shop. And by shop I mean we leave our work-related business out of the conversation, unless one of us brings it up. Naruto offered, and Raven nodded her head. She could live with that agreement, it would make speaking with him less tense at least. Alright, the movie's starting, Card-chan, we'll talk more later. Naruto offered, and Raven nodded while munching on another piece of popcorn. Meanwhile a couple rows behind the two, Cyborg, Beast Boy, and Star, were all looking towards the two. Dude, why couldn't we get closer to them? Beast Boy complained lowly, and Cyborg frowned towards his green friend. Raven can sense auras or something like that, and Naruto admitted to having ninja training. Ninja are always aware of their surroundings, man. Cyborg said lowly as well, and Star simply watched the two, before shushing her two male friends. Please be silent, friends, the movie of viewing is starting, and I wish Snow to be thrown out. Also, we need only watch for now, surely they will be silent and watching as well. We need only make sure he does nothing to harm friend Raven. Star said quietly, and Beast Boy and Cyborg nodded, while sitting back and watching the two. Above them the entire silent figure dressed in black, resided behind a vent cover and looked down on Raven and Naruto, also on Cyborg, Beast Boy, and Star, and shook his head. The figure then pointed his pointer and middle fingers down towards Raven and Naruto, while placing his other hand over his ear. As he did, blue grooves formed over the tips of his pointer and middle fingers on his right hand, and on the palm of his left, allowing him to use them like a directional microphone and listen in on their conversation, if they had another one. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.